Jared Goff got a bag. The Lions signed Jared Goff to a big extension. How does that impact the Rams? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the Locked On Rams YouTube channel. Join the party, trying to get to 13,000 subscribers, getting very close. So do us a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know down below. Can the Lions win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff as their quarterback? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. SI, Dodgers Nation, 24/7 Sports. Now the Rams for Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 9th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, the Rams rookies get their jerseys numbers. We're going to break those down. But Jared Goff gets a big extension for himself by the Lions. How will that impact the Rams? That's coming up. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So we're going to get into the Jared Goff extension, Travis, and how that impacts the Rams. But heard you were lucky enough to go to the Rams draft house in Hermosa Beach. What was that like, Travis?
Well, let me put it to you this way, DMAC. It was myself and a bunch of the other media members, beat writers and stuff that cover the team, broadcasters that cover the team. So as in my role as the pre-half and post-game host, I was invited to this event last night. Let me just put it to you this way, Rams fans. You are in very good hands. You are in very good hands. And I'll give you a couple of the details of this thing, Doug. But as I'm going through this event and this house, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it on socials. A lot of people have seen the videos and everything else, that this is this beautiful home in Hermosa Beach that's covered with all this Rams memorabilia, paraphernalia. And it's the windows are covered with Rams stuff. There's a jacket, there's rugs, there's pennants, there's books, there's album covers, all this really cool album art that they turned into some Rams themed things. The billiard balls on the pool table are Rams logoed. So they just really don't miss a trick. And the thing that keep kind of coming back to me was that this team is in good hands. This team is putting its best foot forward at all times. This team knows what it means to compete in the Los Angeles marketplace for sports fans' eyeballs. This is exactly what you want. Doesn't mean you're going to hit a home run every time. It doesn't mean that you're going to go to the Super Bowl every single year. But meeting the people that I got a great tour of the place from Kat Frederick, who's the Rams chief marketing officer. She did an unbelievable job of putting this place together and kind of taking me through this whole thing. And I just kept coming back to the same thing. These are the people you want in charge of your team. These are the people that you want in charge of your game day experience. These are the people that you want in charge of trying to forge a path in Los Angeles to compete with the Dodgers and the Lakers and USC and everything else that this city has to offer. They're committed to winning on a level that is real, not just in the talking and saying, oh, we want to do this or we want to do that, but in their actions. And I left that part. Great food, by the way. So I'm a sucker for great food. That's a weight of my heart. But I really was, DMAC, just blown away by the level of detail, the level of commitment to branding and Rams football, and making sure that Los Angeles has a first-class experience when it comes to their NFL team. I could not have been more impressed.
That's incredible. And first of all, major shout out to Kat Frederick for watching the show every single day. But yeah, I mean, for me, when it comes to just seeing that Rams draft house, what comes to mind is they get it. They just get it. They're cool. Yeah. Like, they're 2024, right? They totally understand what it's going to take to completely ingratiate themselves into Southern California from a branding standpoint. So it's on the field and off the field. And yeah, it's just super cool. All the stuff they have. I thought about maybe showing up as like an Uber delivery guy, and then ask if I can use the restroom or something and just kind of walk around, maybe, beat up a Domino's pizza guy, take his stuff, like who ordered a pizza, maybe that would have worked. I mean, but
it was exactly what you'd want from a team that has a very wealthy owner that wants to win, wants to compete in a market that, look, we were talking about this last night with some Rams people and some people that cover the team like myself, that differentiating in Los Angeles is not easy, and you have to be good. You have to be that, especially if you're relatively new. And I know the Rams are coming into their 9th season, so it's not new, but it's not the Dodgers who have been here forever. It's not the Lakers who have been here forever. USC football that's been here forever. UCLA basketball that's been here, forever. That to show up and be as good as they've been and continue to push it forward with the attention to detail and the game day experience. It's just I was really super impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. The Rams understand where they sit in this city. And they're like, we got to think outside the box. That's definitely outside the box. No team is doing what the Rams are doing. So that's exciting stuff. And go check it out on YouTube. Search the Rams Draft House. And it's really, really incredible. But Travis, we got to talk about Jared Goff. Jared Goff signs a monster extension with the Detroit Lions. It's 4 years, $212 million, $53 million a year, $170 million guaranteed. And that makes him the second highest paid quarterback in annual value behind Joe Burrow, getting $55 million a year. And for the Lions, look, they're loving what they get with Goff. I mean, the Rams, they won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. With Jared Goff, they won their first playoff game in 32 years. Makes me wonder, can you surround him with enough talent to have enough success with him? Because I think that's where the success is predicated with Jared Goff. Everything has to be in place for him to win big games, but still, it's the quarterback. It's the price of doing business in the NFL in 2024. You got to pay the QB.
Yeah, it's really a tricky spot to be in if you're an NFL team that has a quarterback that's good, but maybe just shy of great, right? And I think that's where Jared Goff falls. I don't think anybody's arguing anymore that he's anything other than a pretty good NFL quarterback. He is. We've seen it. He took a team to the Super Bowl in Los Angeles. He took a team to within one game of a Super Bowl in Detroit. A team, like you just mentioned, D-Mac, has had virtually no success over the last, 50, 60 years. It's just, this is not somewhere that they just show up and they win playoff games. But the problem is, can he do it? Can he grab a game or two out of thin air? Can he just do the thing? Okay, I need you to just do some freakery right now to win me a game. I don't think so. Now, that's not a bang on him, because I don't think there are more than maybe 7 or 8 guys that can. And saying that he's not, I don't think is an insult to him. You got to take care of what you have. He's better than most. He's pretty good, but is he that guy that's Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers when he was at his best, and some of these other guys that you love, Josh Allen, and quite frankly, Matthew Stafford, that could say, listen, I'm going to need you to throw a ball through a hole this big, 40 yards down the field, and I'm going to need you to do it 4 times in a row with 2 minutes on the clock. Okay. There just aren't a lot of guys like that. I don't think Goff is one of those guys, but I think you got to pay him anyway, because the odds of getting better than him are really low and the odds of getting worse are really high.
Yeah, I mean, almost put him in the Kirk Cousins class of, okay, right place, right time, right era to get paid. But you're right. I'm 100% with you on that one. Is he someone that's going to put his team on his back in a big game, in a big moment, to go and just win a game for you? I don't think he's that guy. And just because you're getting paid elite money doesn't mean you're an elite quarterback. And I think Jared Goff is a perfect example. I'm glad he got paid. I'm just glad it wasn't the Rams that were paying him, right? So I'm happy for the guy, but I think that this actually has a positive impact for the Rams somehow. And we're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, so the NFL schedule is coming out tomorrow, right? And you're going to want to go to games. You're going to want to go to some of the higher profile games. So this is why you got to have that Gametime app on your phone, right? You can browse through the Gametime app and you can find all of your team's games. Maybe you even want to take in a road game. Maybe you're going to a city where you don't know the stadium or the ballpark quite the way that you might your home. This is where the Gametime app can come in. Easy to find and buy NFL tickets for every stadium across the league. league, right? Views from your seats in the venue, so you know exactly where you're going to sit. And of course, the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. This is why the Gametime app is your best bet. And if you forget, right, you're like, oh my gosh, the game's coming up, I can't believe last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports and concerts and comedy and theater, just about everything that is in your era. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The schedule's coming out. Go to some games.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there. Thanks for watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. And you can join the Everyday Listeners Club too. We saw Kat Frederick yesterday at the Draft House. We saw Rams fans in Korea. So join that Everyday Listeners Club. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. All right, Travis, we're going to pick up on the Jared Goff talk, and I want to compare the contracts, because what kind of blows my mind a little bit is just how quickly that quarterback position market is getting reset, because we saw Matthew Stafford just 2 years ago, signs for 4 years, $160 million. $40 million a year, $120 million guaranteed. And it's not an apples to apples comparison, of course, because Jared Goff is 29. Stafford was 34 when he signed his deal. He'll actually be younger than Stafford even when this deal ends. So kind of have to keep that in mind. But still, he's making $13 million more per year than Stafford. He's got $50 million more guaranteed. And also, we learned a couple weeks ago that Matthew Stafford wants more guaranteed money in the last couple years of his contract. He has no guaranteed money after this season. So I think in a little bit, I think Stafford's looking at this saying, you know what? This is a little more juice to make me happy, because he knows he's a superior quarterback to Jared Goff.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue otherwise, right? But I think what gets interesting is, you know, you want the security of a long-term deal. You want what comes along with knowing that you're locked in for a certain amount of time. But like you just mentioned, D-Mac, the quarterback price point changes so quickly and so dramatically that you also want to be able to redo it as frequently as possible. He's coming up, Stafford being he's got an opportunity to add more guaranteed dollars to the end of the year. He is one of those guys that's a difference maker. The rub, though, of course, is like this is a salary cap league. The more you put over there, the less I have to spend over here. And I think that's what every team in football is looking for. And this is why when you hit on a young quarterback, the way that the Rams hit on a young quarterback with Jared Goff a few years ago, we've seen it at a handful of other places. The Niners are going through it right now, not having to pay Brock Purdy all that much money. You can go spend money in a lot of other places. So you got to pay your quarterback first and foremost, because without one of those guys, you are nowhere. But the more you put in his bag, the less you have to sprinkle around the rest of the team and make sure that you have the complementary pieces to go win some football games along the way. So there's an art to be sure. But at the end of the day, you have to pay the quarterback. You have to pay him big, especially if you have a star, and the Rams do.
100%. And I think that's not going to be an issue with the Rams. I think that you look at the deal he signed. I mean, back then, he was the fifth highest paid quarterback with right around with Dak Prescott when he signed that extension, where Goff, yeah, he's the number 2 guy right now, but you mentioned Brock Purdy, you got Trevor Lawrence, you got Jordan Love. There's other guys that are up for extensions, and he'll be surpassed pretty quickly. Yep. And I think the big question, what does this do for the Rams? Well, one, you got the Matthew Stafford guaranteed money. I think that might intensify that. But then 2, the Lions are a team that feel like their Super Bowl window is open. We're one bad half away from making the Super Bowl potentially, right? So they feel like they're right there. But as you said, you have to surround Jared Goff with talent. They lost Josh Reynolds. He's on the Broncos now. I think they should have tried to keep him. There's more talented guys around Jared Goff that they're not going to be able to keep because of this deal. And yes, if they keep hitting on draft picks, if they keep upgrading their roster, sure, there is a universe where maybe you could win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. I mean, of course, Trent Dilfer and Banks. I mean, you won Super Bowls with those guys. But I don't think that's going to be the case because, like you mentioned, Jared Goff isn't someone that can put a team on his back. Elite quarterbacks win Super Bowls. And with Jared Goff, the second things aren't going right, the second you're getting pressure up the middle, we're seeing dirt balls. We're seeing missed throws. We saw in the Super Bowl against the Patriots kind of how he was exposed. So, look, was it the right move for the Lions? I think yes. Will they win the Super Bowl with Jared Goff? I think the answer is no.
I think that he falls into the second category of guys. If there's two categories, they're the guys that if everything goes right, can you win a Super Bowl? Yes, he's in that category. That if your running game is strong, if Sam Laporta continues to play well, if they get pressure on the quarterback from Aiden Hutchinson, if everything is really good, is he good enough to keep up and put you in a spot? Sure he is. What if something's not up to snuff? What if you have a bad day defensively? What if you need somebody to just pull something out of thin air? Can he do that? I don't think so. Now, and again, that's not a slight to him. I don't think there's a lot of guys, but look at who we've seen win the Super Bowls over the last few years. We've seen Patrick Mahomes win a bunch of them. We've seen Tom Brady win one. We saw Matthew Stafford win one. These guys that can Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl in a second half performance where he's throwing no-look passes to one guy on the team.
Yeah.
And everybody knew that's where the ball's going, and they still found a way to get it done. That's what I'm talking about. Like when stuff's not where Odell Beckham down, another guy down, another guy down. Can you still find a way to get it done? Yes. And that's the difference between the very small group of NFL quarterbacks, of which the Rams have one, and pretty much everybody else. And Goff, I think, falls into that second category.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Jared Goff, he had his moments, right?
Yeah.
Seattle thumb game, right? You had his perfect game in Minnesota. You had the Kansas City fireworks on Monday Night Football.
Unreal.
You know what those games weren't? They weren't the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, he did it on the biggest stage, and he was one of the biggest reason why the Rams got a Lombardi trophy. So, yeah, I think for me, I look at Holmes. Did he have to make this deal? I think he absolutely did. But I woke up today. My biggest thing was I feel better and better and more thankful for that Matthew Stafford deal because they got a top 3 quarterback basically at the time for top 5 money, whereas Jared Goff, you're getting a top 10 fringe-ish quarterback for top 2 money, right? So, I mean, look, here's another thing too, Travis. The Lions, they've spent more money on quarterbacks in the last 15 to 20 years than any team in the NFL. Any team in the NFL, they have 0 Super Bowls to show for it. So it kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, they've been a bad team for a very long time. They're not a bad team anymore. And they got a lot of Rams DNA in there, right? You have Rams executives that are making decisions. You've got a former Ram quarterback. They've got a new, head coach. I know I've given Dan Campbell some grief here on the pod before because of just the Dan Campbell of it all, but they're a much better team than they've been in my entire lifetime. And it does feel, by NFL standards, pretty darn sustainable. Are they good enough to beat the Rams? Are they good enough to beat the 49ers or the Eagles or any of these other teams that we think may be coming out of the NFC, maybe Green Bay in their own division? Time will tell, but they're, like you said at the beginning of this, D-Mac, their window is open for real for the first time in probably 60 years, which is why when it's open, pay the guy that's responsible for, at least in part, for kicking it open, and they got to go for it. And look, the Rams are they're going to be in the way. They're going to play each other in this upcoming season. We're going to find out exactly when here in about 24 hours, give or take. The Rams and the Lions may be at the beginning of a little bit of, back and forth because of the history and the trade and everything else. They had a playoff game that was closely contested this year. May happen again, or last year, I should say, may happen again this year. It's the potential start of a pretty interesting rivalry.
I can't believe you said that because I literally was just about to say we're going to ditch the jersey number segment. We're going to talk about is the Rams versus Lions. What kind of rivalry is it right now? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
It is that time of year, right? It is that time of year. Winner take all time of the year in the NBA and, of course, the NHL. And FanDuel, they're giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your very own. Because right now, new customers, right? You're thinking, I should do FanDuel. I don't know. Well, right now, new customers, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. But you got to visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. And oh, by the way, so we got playoff hockey right now, right? We've got playoff basketball in the NBA. there's a golf major championship coming up this weekend as well. The PGA Championship at Valhalla in Kentucky. So if you are a golf person and you want to get in on that, Scotty Scheffler right now, if you want odds on him, you're going to have to keep waiting around because that guy's killing everything. But it's all available for you at FanDuel. FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So you're going to pick up on that topic because tomorrow we're going to find out the Rams' primetime games. We're going to find out more about their schedule. And the one that we know is going to be a lock is Rams-Lions. We know it's going to be a primetime game. The only question is it going to be Sunday night? Is it going to be Monday night? Is it going to be on Thanksgiving? TNF, whatever it is, it's going to be a primetime game. And after this extension was announced, I mean, you see every time if it's a Lions Goff, a Lions Rams of Stafford post, there's always going to be Rams and Lions fans kind of getting into it in the comments. And I do think that there is something there. Like, it definitely has some juice, the Rams versus the Lions. Is it permanent? Is it long lasting? I would say no. I think you could compare it maybe a tiny bit to Dodgers, Padres, right? As far as like, we know that the Giants they're the Dodgers rivals, right? They're their birth rivals. But as far as the juice, the Padres and the Dodgers have a lot of juice right now because of the personnel on both teams. It's based on the players more than the franchises.
Well, I think that's right because look, the rivalry is a little bit manufactured, but it's a genuine manufacturing of a rivalry because think about what happened. The Rams decided that Jared Goff wasn't going to be the guy of their future, despite the fact that he'd taken them to a Super Bowl. It's impossible for Jared Goff not to have feelings about that, right? He goes to Detroit. Matthew Stafford, who's the #1 overall pick of the Lions and gave his heart and soul there for over a decade, was a fantastic player for them. He basically said, hey, listen, man, this isn't working out. I've done everything I can here. I need to go try something else. And bam, he hits the jackpot in his very first year and goes and win a Super Bowl. Lions fans have to feel a certain way. I know they love Matthew Stafford. I know that they booed him. Well, that's just sports stuff. That's not a big deal. But what it is wait, you divorced me and you went over there and you instantly win with Miss America? Are you kidding me? Like that, there has to be feelings on both sides of this. There has to, and by the way, they're both good. They played in the play. You know what? The way a rivalry starts is not just with the personal stuff like swapping quarterbacks, but you prevented me from going to where I wanted to go. The Lions prevented the Rams from advancing in the playoffs last year. They did it because they had a really good team. There was nothing weird about that game. The Lions beat them. That's just the way that it went. That's how rivalries start. You get another game. It's going to be a primetime game. I think we both believe that, like you mentioned. Maybe it's the difference between one team getting that game in their home stadium or not. All of these things start to add up. That's how you get rivalries, and then throw on the personal aspect of you left me and won the Super Bowl and you dumped me and won the Super Bowl. It's a big deal. It's fun.
It is, and they're both competing for the same thing. They both had a key matchup in the wild card round. It was a great game, by the way, one of the best games in the entire playoff season. And you got the Jared Goff, you got the Matthew Stafford dynamics. And I think, too, when you look at a rivalry, what makes a rivalry and takes it to the next level is you pay attention to that team and how they're performing, even when your team's not involved, right? People check, are the Lions winning or losing? How did Jared Goff play, right? They check for those things. But I do think it's like a fling, man. It's like a summer fling. You know what I mean? They're not getting married. They're not married as a rival. It's a summer fling. It reminds me Lakers Phoenix, right? Lakers Suns, when it was Mike D'Antoni, Lakers Kings, right? When it was cowbell situation, that kind of stuff, where we know that if you could pick, one matchup to watch the NBA that year, it was that, right? But then when they went on different teams, you didn't really care as much. And I think what makes this one cool and really makes it stand the test of time right now is the sense that they're not even division rivals, right? They're in the same conference, but still it's a matchup that everyone's going to be tuning in for. And yeah, I mean, I want to see not just the regular season. I want to see somehow the Rams play the Lions in the playoffs somehow, some way, so we can kind of get that wild card loss out of our system.
And it just is so infrequent where one team says, "I'll take your quarterback, you take mine." Yeah, that's what the trade was, right? It just doesn't go like that very often. I know there are picks involved and all that, but it's basically, we'll take your quarterback, you take ours, and you can figure it out from there. And the guy that the Lions got turned out to be pretty darn good. Turns out to be like we just talked about, as his new deal. They're comfortable. They're signing up long term for him. I don't think they thought that's what they were going to do when they made the deal, but it worked out for everybody. Everybody got what they wanted out of this deal, and that's how you get rivalries.
The ultra rare win-win in sports trades. Yeah. It just almost never happens, but I think this certainly is a case where it did. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. Of course, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. Big day on the show tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll get the schedule announced. We'll do a quick breakdown of that tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.